and we will see. So if anybody's here yet, I don't think so. I'm with 7 Pens today.
Let's see. On the YouTube, it still says waiting, so it looks like it may
Okay.
take a little time to catch up.
Okay, cool.
And as
There we
soon as I
go.
see the video, I'll
It's
ping my
live.
Discord.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yeah, it's live for me.
Let's take a look.
Hello. Oh, we got
Oh,
people.
I see what's
Coconut
going
Justice.
on.
Good to see you, man. Nice.
Brad, I don't know if you know this, but there's there's actually like two things on your YouTube live section. One
Okay.
says 10 are waiting, and another one that says one is live.
Hmm. Like on my website?
On the YouTube on your live tab, right? It's
Oh.
like you've got two events. One is upcoming, and one is live.
Oh. Okay.
So that's why
Interesting.
I was seeing the thing hasn't started yet.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing. Oh, you're right. That's odd. Yeah, one is. Well, we'll see what happens. I think eight waiting scheduled for 422, 11:25. I don't remember scheduling that, but okay. 422. All right. Well, oh, I bet when I connected the Riverside, it did that. Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. It's good to see you. Hello from Puerto Rico. I'm in Ohio. 7 Pens, where are you from? You're out west, right?
Yeah, I'm in Seattle, Redmond,
Seattle.
Washington.
Okay. That makes sense. So if you have never been here before, I'm Brad. This is 7 Pens. We're doing our first joint live stream. I'm testing out some new software. I want to apologize to everybody about the resolution since I'm just testing it. Right now, it only lets me stream in 720p. So I apologize. The good news is that it's only streaming in 720p is hopefully there will be less lag. That would be a nice thing. And I'm trying to monitor chat while we go. Awesome. I watch you on Instagram, Coconut. I don't know if we've ever talked before, but I've seen your stuff. I love it. Uh, Thank you, Lionel. Really appreciate that. Greece, Montreal. Good stuff. UK checking in. Watch your reviews when buying my tablet. I bought the Lenovo Tab T12. Nice. Yeah, that was a popular video. Well, I think we've got enough people here, so I think we can kind of get started. Today, I have a guest. This is 7 Pens, who runs a YouTube channel, runs a website, has a lot of stuff going on. And I thought it would be fun to just kind of test this out, have a guest on live, and see how it goes. So this is a bit of a new thing for me. He's an experienced live streamer, although you've never done like a live interview type thing on your stream, have you?
Not an interview.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to hold on. I'm going to grab his YouTube channel real quick here and just paste it in the chat. And so that way you guys can go and subscribe, show some love, and then we can kind of go from there. Look at that. If I post a link, it actually links. I like that. Hey, how's it going? This is pretty cool. Thank you from Vancouver. Good to see you, Canada. India's in the house. I'm surprised anybody's awake in India. I'm glad to have you here. Cool. All right. So let's talk about you. Enough about me. Enough about my stream. Why don't you give us a little background? Like, where did you start? How did you get into pens? Like, specifically, you talk about like the nitty gritty of pen displays. You go into details that I didn't know existed from like the technology side. And I found you to be a tremendous resource for me. Like, even though I've been reviewing these things for years, like there's so much that I have learned just in the last 2 years or so that you've been doing this. So go ahead, kick it off. Who are you and where are you from? How'd you get into this?
So yeah, a little bit of the biographical background. So I guess the thing that's most related about sort of just biographically is first I retired 2 years ago from working 28 years at Microsoft. Now
Dang.
I worked on distributed computing at Microsoft. Okay, and exabyte scale databases. My background at Microsoft is really not pens and
Okay.
computer graphics, though I did work on that for a little bit. 19, and I, like many kids, I was in love with comics, so I drew a lot. I actually had in 1986 or 7 the Koala Pad, which is one of the first consumer tablets
I've
available.
never heard of that. Okay.
You know how like a Wacom tablet has 250 lines per inch?
Uh-huh.
The total resolution of that tablet was 256 by 256.
Oh, wow.
It's very primitive. But my first real tablet was in 1995. That was my first Wacom tablet. So I've
Okay.
been using Wacom tablet for 31 years. Okay.
Wow.
There's a lot of history. At this point, I have something like 110 drawing tablets.
Wow. Like you
Fif-
still have them. Like you just
Yeah, they're
haven't
literally all around me in this
saved
room.
them. Dang.
Right.
Okay.
And from 1986 all the way to 2026. I
So
have
do you still have the Koala tablet?
I do. Yeah, I had to find it on eBay, but yes, I do have
Wow.
it.
Okay. And have you ever like pulled that out on stream and actually like played with it at all?
I've never pulled it out because I really can't plug it into anything. I'd need
Oh,
like
okay.
a Commodore 64.
Okay.
Right. That's,
That'll set you back.
but I have pulled out a Wacom from 1994,
Uh-huh.
right, or 1995, and I've used that pen with a modern Wacom tablet,
Wow.
which is crazy to think that technology still works, right?
Yeah.
So, then I have like 150 pens. Okay. So when I retired, one of the reasons I retired was I was really into creative tech. Now, actually, my channel isn't about drawing tablets. It's just that drawing tablets were the first technology I really started getting into, right? And there's a lot, I thought I'd do one video about how they work. It turned out into, 3 years of investigating, and I'm continuing to do that. And I think there's one thing here which you mentioned I want to hit upon, which I think your audience should probably know, which is not obvious in using drawing tablets. A lot of the things that we enjoy as part of using a drawing tablet have nothing to do with the tablet. Okay? Let me give you an example. A lot of people think that it is the tablet that measures pressure. It's actually the pen. Okay?
Okay.
All the pressure stuff is in the pen. The tablet doesn't know anything about it. It's just getting that information from the pen. This has lots of tremendous consequences for us, right? Because the hardware of the pen controls your experience, how lightly you press or how hard you can press. And so what that tells you is you should not just pick tablets on the specs of the tablet, but you should have some experience with the pen. Here's an example. You buy Wacom, version 1 tablet that uses the Pro Pen 2. They release a new tablet with same pen. Will your drawing experience be any different? By definition, it cannot. Because the pen experience, the pressure will be exactly the same.
Good
There's
to
no
know.
point upgrading, thinking you'll get a better experience, right? Diving into this topic, you learn all sorts of things that the number of pressure levels above 2000 really don't matter,
Yay.
right? They just, and if someone believes I'm wrong about that, I'd love to see your data, but I think I have a very compelling case why you'll just never notice anything over 2000.
Yeah. When
Right.
I started doing this, it's now been, it's technically been 11 years, but like doing it seriously, 7 or 8 years, right? And so when I first started, though, one of the things I'd say over and over again was like, these pressure numbers don't matter because at the time we had gone from like 2000 to 4000 and then it jumped from 4000 to 8000. Now we're up to 16,000 on these new pens. And it's like indecipherable difference. Like I could not tell the difference. And then every so often something would happen. I think the original Surface Pen was, or this one of the early Surface Pens was like only 1,000 levels of pressure. I think the Apple, how many levels is the Apple Pencil? It's not that many. Is it like 2,000 or something like that?
They don't publish the specs.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's like, I think maybe 4,000 or 8,000.
Okay.
Right?
It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. What does matter, which people don't know about, is the physical pressure range. We know
Okay.
about IAF. We talk about that all the time, so that's good.
Yeah.
we know
And
we
then
want
and
more.
IAF is initial activation force, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Very few people really think about the maximum physical pressure,
Uh-huh.
right? That's not a spec people even normally talk about. You have to measure that one. You'll want a pen where you have the maximum pressure, the 100% value is like about 350 gram force,
Okay.
right? which is not super hard. Wacom Pro Pen 2 will get to like 800 or 900. Some people can't actually press down hard enough. Like it hurts their hand to do it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not saying you have to have 800, 900. I'm saying the more pressure range you have, the more control you have over your strokes,
Okay. That
right?
makes a ton of sense.
And that's just not obvious if you listen to manufacturer specs. They never talk about it, right? Another thing which is really interesting is if you can take this digital scale and you press down on the tablet and you see what the scale says and you see what the number says, 100%, 50%, you'll realize pens are not linear in their pressure. Like they're super hypersensitive near the IAF. And you know what that means? If you're drawing with very light pressure, the pressure is bouncing up and down wildly,
Huh.
and your strokes are very uneven. You won't notice this unless you're using like a 300 pixel pen.
Yeah.
But my analysis, and I've analyzed about almost 90 pens, I've sort of computed what is the pressure curve that would give you a linear response, right? And so I think people should use generally a pressure curve that goes to the right and then up, right?
Okay.
Anyway, I don't go into great detail here, but my point is, once you look at the numbers, you can really use your tools more effectively. That's what I love doing.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense. So is it like you're saying that and that low end, that really light end, it fluctuates a lot, but you don't really notice it. Is that because it's hard to actually measure pressure? Because when you're pressing light, you know, there's just a variable of your hand. Like it's hard to hold your hand consistently with pressure. Like to a certain extent you can, but like there might be some variation and it's more sensitive there. Is that why you're seeing it there? Or is it just like that's just what the pen does on that low end of the pressure scale?
It's just an artifact of how, the difficulty it has for a physical sensor to keep a steady value there.
Okay.
It's not like a flaw. In order to get really low IAF, they have to be that sensitive, right?
That makes
Now,
sense.
you and I both mentioned it's hard to notice this sometimes, and let me tell you why. I'm going to use a bigger word than we'll talk about what it really means. There's a quantization effect. Okay.
Okay.
So let me just give you a concrete example. Let's suppose you have a brush which is 10 pixels big. In other words, it'll go from 1 to 10 pixels, right? Now, what if I told you have 8,000 pressure levels? Okay.
What are you gonna do?
So about 900 of them are mapped into pixel size 1. Another 900 are mapped into pixel size 2.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you're lots of people draw with a 5 pixel brush. So even if the pressure is going up from 0 to 10% to 15 and bouncing, you're still going to see 1 pixel.
Right, because the brush itself is mapped to so many different variables on that line.
Exactly.
And what was
If
that
you
word you
were
used?
having a bigger brush, then you'll notice it.
Yeah. What was your big fancy word you used there? Quantify?
It's quantization. It's how
Quantization.
numbers get pushed into smaller numbers, right?
Okay.
And this is one reason why I say 16,000 doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Can you
'Cause don't have
find a
that's
brush
16,000.
which would express this? You're right.
It would
you're
crash
gonna have a
most
real hard time doing
computers.
it. That's right. You've got a tech background, so you know what
Yeah.
it's like a hash table kind of thing going on, right?
Yeah. Let's hit up chat. One of the things I was telling Seven here is that I have to get used to bouncing between chat and conversation. So chat, if I miss something, say it in all caps. Actually, don't do that. That'll mess with me. Let's see. Joint stream, review the Koala tablet. I agree. The Koala tablet sounds kind of cool. Even if you don't review it, like just shouting it out on stream would be pretty cool. So you have a whole bunch of tools. I'm gonna actually pull up your website because I think this is kind of interesting. Back to experimental mode. I also have to keep moving my water around because it's blocking my screen as I go. Share screen. Is it going to let me do this? Share it. Oh, look at that. It's working. All right. So this is your site, and you catalog a ton of stuff on this site. We obviously have your basics like, hey, here's my YouTube channel and my notes on drawing tablets, your tweets, all that fun stuff. And yeah, why don't we just kind of walk through some of the stuff that you look for and that you're testing here? I'm going to start with your notes on drawing tablets. Would that be a good place to go? Did that open a new window?
It's a big overview. Maybe a good way of looking at this is looking at a specific tablet, so
Okay.
you can see how I look at things. A good one to pick for this is the Canvas Pro 19
Okay.
because I have very detailed notes on it, and you can see some of my process.
The
If you
Canvas
type in
Pro
search,
19.
if you just type in the search in the upper right, Canvas Pro 19, you'll find it.
Now, this one was a little controversial, if I remember, because people didn't like the screen texture on it. Was that the one that people weren't like? There were some of them that folks were, I didn't really notice, but there's matte screen coatings on all of these tablets, and sometimes the matte gets a little too harsh and makes the like resolution look too blurry. Was this one of the ones that people were talking about? Do you
Yeah.
remember?
So, can I have a minute just to explain a little bit of background on this one?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it starts with the previous generation of Huion pen displays. And some people noticed, I did, that some of the tablets had a lot of anti-glare sparkle, right? To avoid glare, they create a slight etching on the surface,
Yeah.
or they use a matte film protector. And that disperses the light, that can create a weird sparkling effect. Huion, with this tablet, really improved that rainbow sparkle effect. They tamped that down. But the consequence of that treatment was that it dispersed the light enough with such a high resolution monitor. Some people saw this display and felt the pixels looked a bit soft.
Okay.
And some people use the word blurry. I don't like to use the word blurry. You actually see, if you scroll down, you'll actually see pictures of a comparison, right? And you can see, there it is, right there, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's the first thing I noticed with this tablet. Now, I'm not bothered by it. Some people actually like the effect. Some people think it makes it look more like ink on paper. But other people, they're like, no, they got to see the sharpest, crispest pixels imaginable,
Yes.
right? So they'll look at the Cintiq Pro 22, and even though the difference might not look so obvious right now, people absolutely pick this up. Not everybody, but those who pick it up,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
So this I don't know how many people, but let's just say 10% of people who use the tablet did not like this softness.
okay. I totally missed this in my reviews. Like I just did not see it. Now I'm looking for it. But yeah, wow, look at that. You can totally see it once you actually get in there and look at it because it's like you're not seeing those pixels. It's smoothing it out. Yep. Totally. It kind of reminds me of the other thing. I'm reviewing a whole bunch of monitors right now, and they're all 5K monitors because the Apple Studio displays came out and all that fun stuff. And Apple, the way they scale up their resolution, it's designed. I think their laptops are mostly like sitting at 1440p, and that's where the resolution looks best. And so when you double the width and the height of that, you basically get a 5K display. So if you view it on a 4K display, it's shrinking things down, and some of those interface elements, you have multiple pixels kind of fitting in one pixel. You have other places where it's kind of getting squashed here and there. And it's one of those things that I never noticed. Like when I look at a 4K display, I'm like, that looks pretty good to me on a Mac. Other people spot it right away, and they could see that crispness. So that is something where I've started actually I have reading glasses I've started wearing when I review these things to start to spot that a little bit better.
The other thing you may want to be aware of is that Mac OS and Windows do things differently when they scale to different resolutions. And traditionally, when you're not using something that's strictly 4K, like you're using 2.5K, you'll find that the text on Mac OS computers is blurrier than the equivalent Windows text because they have very different strategies. And Tio on Tech, he's you know who he is.
Oh yeah.
He actually recommends using a program called Better Display on the Mac.
Oh, okay.
And you can tell it to basically sharpen up the image. It looks really good,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's something you want to take a look for, both trying Better Display as well as seeing what things look like on Windows, especially with text.
Jumping over to chat here. How's everybody doing? Someone has finally jumped into tablets 2 years ago. Big revolution for productivity. That's good stuff. Never respected this duo. I think I read that one. Oh, it's good to see you. Was one of your best, Brad. Thanks. Which one was? I don't know. Cool. So let me jump back to your website here and let's jump back to some of this other stuff because the thoroughness here. Usually I try to keep my reviews around 10 to 15 minutes,
Yeah.
like kind of cover like part of it is the specs of the device itself, like what the manufacturer gives you. And then a lot of times the manufacturer will less so with the Chinese brands, but like Wacom will do this. They'll give you like this is the thing that this tablet's supposed to do. Like this is what we're proud of about this tablet or this screen or this display. And so then my job is to be like, does it do the thing they're proud of? You know, how does it do the thing they're proud of? Like, is it actually useful or is this just marketing stuff? You're diving into really the technical stuff here. What's in the box, display stuff, that's stuff that I cover. Pen compatibility. So let's talk a little bit about specifically like this pen tech that these companies come up with. So Huion is currently, I think they're on version 4.0 of their pen tech. Huion's kind of interesting because XP Pen, I believe they have two tiers of pens. They have like their X3 and then their X3 Pro. I could be wrong about that off the top of my head. But Huion just has one pen right now. They're putting in everything, which is their Pentec 4.0. Is that right?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag for Huion, as it turns out.
Oh, okay.
They've got a little bit of a strange story going on. So first of all, the new pen that uses Pentec 4.0, that's the PW600 series. There's like 3 or 4 different variants. They're all great.
Okay.
And in just a minute, I will prove to you they're all great.
All right.
You'll take a look at something; it'll be very obvious. Basically, the PW600 series is absolutely the closest we've ever gotten to a Pro Pen 2.
Okay.
It is the first Wacom pen that I think most people would not be able to really tell the difference between that and a Pro Pen 2. So
Yeah.
good for them. Awesome. The issue right now is that for some bizarre, unknown reason, even though the PW600 series pens have been out for, I think, now 2 years, Huion has not released a pen tablet, a screenless tablet, that uses that pen tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's easy to prove to you. I have a hard time recommending the current generation of Huion pen tablets, except for maybe the Frago for some, or using the PW550 pen, because I think users deserve the new PW600 pen.
Yeah.
It's just such a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Right?
Have they just so they don't send me quite as many, like they send me all their screen-based things. Have they just not released anything new from a non-screen tablet in the last year or two?
The only thing they've released is the Frago,
Okay.
and the Frago uses a kind of I forgot the exact number, but something like I don't know, I'll say it's a 3.1 plus pen,
Okay.
Pentec. And it's kind of like a beta version of the PW600 series pens, right? In fact, it's about as good as a PW600 series pen, right? But it doesn't come with an eraser, right? And you can use it with older Huion models that use the PW517 pen, which is very inconsistent. It's kind of pen. So if you want a quick upgrade and you have a PW517 pen, get a PW550. Statistically, it'll be better than the pen you have now.
And it will work
Right.
on the same displays.
Yeah.
It'll work
Yeah.
on those displays.
That's correct.
Cool.
And that's clearly listed in Huion specs.
That's cool. I love what Huion has been doing in recent years. I didn't know all the technical details, but just kind of using the pens, I'm like, okay, this is really good. And one of the things I say in a lot of my videos is that when I'm comparing like Huion to Wacom is that I'm not detecting a whole lot of difference between those two pens anymore. And so what I'll say in my video is at the end usually is to wrap it up, I'll be like, okay, here's the thing is you're getting a pen that gets you 90% of the way to Wacom's quality, but you're getting it at half the price. And that's usually like a really good value for a lot of people. I think for most people, like if you really want the Wacom pen absolutely go for it. But a lot of times when I'm using it, I'm like, I don't really notice the difference, or I can't quantify it, because a lot of times you'll just pick it up and you'll just start drawing and be like, oh, this is nice. And then I have to work backwards. Like, why is this nice? Why do I like this? There's just something kind of this like organic and tangible feel that is hard to actually like say in a spec or something like that. You mentioned that this is as close as Wacom's Pro Pen as you've seen. What are the things that like? Do you think this is on the same level as the Pro Pen? Do you think the Pro Pen maybe still does some things a little bit better than what Huiyan's doing here?
Would you like to see the data that supports
Yeah,
these conclusions?
let's do it.
Okay, so I don't know if I can send a link in the chat. I should be able to,
Okay.
but give me a second. I'm going to try it anyway. And it's a public site. Everyone can get there. So
While you look it up, I'm going to jump in the chat here. Someone says, quick question. I have TuneSquid and Procreate Dreams on my M4 iPad Pro. What animation software would work on my M3 MacBook Pro so I can go back and forth between both devices? That is one of the hardest things right now when we're talking about animation software, is there's just not a lot of like back and forth right now in the industry. Like if we're talking about, drawing in Procreate, at least you can export a PSD and open it in Photoshop, Krita, Clip Studio, or anything. Animation is so much harder. There right now is not a good iPad to desktop flow. I mean, you could use Krita, because then you have a Krita file you could open. No, that doesn't work on the iPad. You could use Clip Studio, because at least then you could open it up, but you're losing a lot of the animation features that Dreams and TuneSquid have. So right now, there's not like a really good option there. All right. Oh, there's a lot of comments I mixed. Good stuff. I can tell who has come from your Discord. It's cool to see all you guys here because you guys know your stuff. USI pens currently have a bad implementation on most tablets. I do want to dive into that the USI thing. I have thoughts and feelings. Were you able to get that link in the chat that you mentioned?
I put it in. I don't know if you can see it though. I think your chat is removing links.
Oh man. Okay.
But I can project my screen.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think.
If
me
you
see if
can't,
I
I
can
might
get-
be able to give you permission.
Let's see.
Let me stop sharing, and that might help you.
Okay, 504. Hang on a second. And W600. Sorry, I vibe coded a tool, which is what I'm about to show you.
Oh yeah. You using
Okay.
Claude Code?
I am I am cloud coding all day,
Oh wow.
all
I,
day.
a lot of my friends are developers. I was a designer, so I was not really touching code outside of like CSS and HTML. But all my friends are developers because I was always like the token designer on a team of developers. And they just in the last like 4 or 5 months went from, we got to babysit this thing. It can be a tool that helps with our tests and stuff like that, to like all in crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen a technology take off this fast, and that's coming from a very hardcore AI skeptic who has been bashing the industry for years at this point.
Okay, I'm gonna try showing my screen.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, screen, allow. And I think it's, yeah, okay. Tell me if you're seeing my screen.
I do see. Oh, it's working. I
Okay.
see it. Does everybody else see it? Yeah.
Okay, so what you need to know, oops, is where's my, yeah. What you need to know is you're seeing some pretty graphs, okay? And let me just, you're sure how I constructed each of these. Again, I push on the tablet that's on a scale. So I know physically how hard I'm pressing,
Okay.
and then I can see the percentage pressure on Krita, right?
So you're placing the tablet on the scale. You're seeing, okay, the tablet weighs how many grams, and then as you're pressing with the pen, you can see that pressure go up and down. You can see
That's
that
right.
number go up. Okay.
and then I map that to the pressure, like in Krita or the tablet driver, there's a percentage value. So I just map those two numbers up. What it turns out is you get this curve, right? They're not linear. And you notice how they all rise sometimes very steeply at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
That's that oversensitivity,
Okay.
right? Now take a look at the x-axis. That goes from 0 to 1,000 gram force. 1,000 gram force is 1 kilogram. That's not 2 pounds.
Wow.
Okay, so now this is several pens from Huion XP Pen and I forgot Wacom. Okay,
Yeah.
now there's a lot of it's maybe looking very pretty, but let's separate it out by what I call the envelope. So there'll be one core line for each family of pens. Okay. Oops, do I have that? Yeah, okay. And now I separate it out by family. Okay.
Okay.
So the red line is the Wacom Pro Pen 2. Now, I'm not really good at IAF. They all have pretty low IAF, but take a look at the maximum pressure. The red line goes all the way to about 700 gram force. That's a lot of pressure. Okay. Now, what is the pinkish area around the red line? That's the amount of variance. Remember, I tested a lot of pens, right? I've
So
got
is
all
that-
the numbers.
Is the pink cone the variant of just Wacom pens? Is that
Of
what is that variant
specifically the Pro? I have like 12 Pro Pen 2 models.
of? Okay. Okay.
So they all fall within this, and look at that, a very tight envelope, right?
Yeah.
Now, this tight envelope, especially at the maximum pressure, tells you something interesting. What it tells you is, if you're using a Pro Pen 2, and as long as it's not damaged, and you buy another Pro Pen 2, the new one you're going to get is pretty much going to behave exactly like the one you have.
Yep.
That's a great feature. Okay. Now take a look at the blue line. That's the Huion PW600 pen.
Okay.
Now remember, I think if its maximum pressure ends up about 500 gram force, and that's actually 500 is the excellent threshold. 350 is good, okay, or very good. Now it's actually relatively a tight envelope also. So in my testing, PW600 pens, I have I have about 11 of them. They will all perform very similarly. Okay? So that's great news. And now you can see why I think the PW600 pen is so good, because it's very close to what Wacom provides.
Right.
Something weird happens with the X3 Pro pens.
Okay. Is
There's-
that what that stepping thing is showing? Because when I look at the envelope and I saw some examples in there, it wasn't like Wacom's curve is like really smooth.
Oh.
Right.
If you see stepping, that's really the result of over 2 years, I've made my process more accurate and less noisy.
Okay.
So it's not the pen's fault. If you see a sudden jump, that's me.
Okay. Cool.
Right? So try to look at the overall shape.
Yeah.
Okay. Now take a look at the green line. And the green line is the X3 Pro series. Now, first of all, it hits at around 350 maximum force, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. The challenge is, look at how wide the greenish area goes.
Yeah.
Now, what does that tell you? If you have an X3 Pro pen and you buy another one, it's a real crapshoot how it's going to behave.
You can get
It could be
200
really good
grams
compared to what you have, or
350.
it could be really just kind of meh
Yeah.
compared to what you have.
Wow.
So when I have this data, I can look at XP Pen and tell you all, look, I like the pen, but they need to make this pen more consistent.
Yeah.
Now, if you bear with me, I'm going to show you another surprising fact.
Okay.
Okay. So let me get rid of this Huion.
I'm gonna write down a question because there's a I don't have anything to write with because I'm curious to see if we could graph Sense Labs in there as well, because for those of you who are watching, Sense Labs, XP Pen, owned by the same mothership company.
Okay. Now, XP Pen, in their latest generation, they released two kinds of X3 pens.
Okay. Yep.
X3 Pro and X3 Elite. The Elite is the consumer pen on their non-pro tablets, like the Deco LW, right?
So the Elite is this is like the lesser pen, and the Pro is the better pen.
Uh-huh.
Is that
Yeah.
that's not how I would have named it, but okay.
Now, let's take a look at the envelope again.
Wow.
Oops, I didn't do this quite correctly. Give me a second, let me get rid of this. X3 Elite. Let's see if this did it correctly. I'll have to do it by model. Actually, let me, sorry, I'm getting myself confused. Let's just
That's
take a
all
look
right.
at it this way. So this is the X3 Pros, right? Same basic thing I showed. Sorry, not X3 Pros. This is the XP Elites. Notice they actually are very tightly grouped at around 350. But the X3 Pros are not. Remember, they were spread out quite a bit. I can show you
Yeah.
that separately. So in a weird way, the X3 Elites are more consistent
Yeah.
in my measurements, right, than the X3 Pros. So this is why when, it's just very confusing. Now, if I only had one X3 Elite and one X3 Pro, you could chalk it up to me not having a lot of data. But Brad, I have a lot of X3 Elites,
Yes,
right?
you do.
and I do look at my numbers. So, I don't insist people look at my numbers and take them as gospel, but my point is, at least I have some data. And let's see if we can start as a community, start formulating what our general opinion is and our experience of the pens, and give that feedback back to the manufacturer, right?
Yeah.
There's one more thing I want to notice, by the way, about these graphs, Brad, is that the dark line represents what we call the 50th percentile or median value. In other words, in my measurements, half of the pens are to the left in the envelope and half are to the right.
Okay.
Right. So this is what I would consider what you should expect out of the pen.
So one pen might be wonky and push your envelope out, but what the median is really telling you is like, this is what most pens are doing. Like it's not an average, it's the median. It's a little different.
Yeah. Exactly right. There's half is below, half is above, but if the envelope is tight, then your experience won't deviate too much between pens. Right? So you can see, getting back to our meta thing, when you look at what XP Pen, Huion, and Wacom are doing, Huion, has been doing a great job. We have some evidence now that they are doing that because their manufacturing is good at this. XP Pen is struggling with their X3 Pros in being consistent. If they improve that, they'll probably be at this, and increase their maximum pressure. They'll be the same place as Huion,
Yeah.
right? Now
So
you had a
can
question
we
about.
can we look at this graph again? Do you have Sense Labs? Have
I
you
do.
tested a lot of there? I thought
I
you
do.
did. Okay. I'm just kind of curious how that compares to what XP Pen's doing, because there's also Uji. I have not tested a lot of Uji things, but Uji's also the same underlying technology from what I understand. And I'm just kind of curious how those things compare, how much they're sharing the same technology under the hood.
So first, there are actually two versions of their pens. There's the V1s and V2s.
Okay.
I only have one of the V1s, so it's probably better if we look at the V2s.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go flag these and take a look. And let's look at the envelope. Actually, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
My numbers say they are clearly better than the X3 Elites and the X3 Pros,
Interesting.
right?
They'll like to hear that. I think I'm wearing my Sense Labs shirt. That was not on purpose. That was I am not here. I was wearing a shirt. Seven will back me up on here. Before the stream started, I was wearing a flannel shirt over this, and then my lights made me hot, and I took it off, and now you can see that I'm pimping a brand. It's an accident.
So yeah, again, the reason I show this is I want you to have confidence in how the things are behaving. And I think if I can share this data, by the way, again, all this data is public,
Yeah.
right? It's all on GitHub, actually, if you want to see the actual raw data files.
Okay. Wow.
And another thing I have, I'll just show it to you briefly. I have started to collect a series of, I'm trying to pull all my data together into one big tool, which shows you, for example, all the brands, all 329 tablets. You can take a look at even families, like, I'll just do this one. Sorry, tablet families. Let me zoom in. I think it may be a little bit difficult for people to see.
Oh, there you go.
Take a
Yeah.
look at the Intuos Pro 2025. You can see how their sizes compare to historically the last 15 years of tablets, right?
So you're talking about we're talking about the Intuos. So you're talking about the drawing area? Is that what you're referring
Yeah,
to
the
as
active
size?
area. Yeah.
Okay.
You can see how they compare to each other. You can see how they compare to ISO A paper sizes even,
Okay.
right? So I thought for people they often wonder how big these tablets are.
Yeah.
You can start doing this kind of analysis,
Yeah.
right? So I'll add other features like comparing the specs, comparing sizes, comparing aspect ratios, et cetera, right? So again, this is all just available. I publish all my stuff here for people to look at. Right?
Has anybody from the manufacturer reached out to you to talk about any of this data? Like I'm assuming they're probably looking at it. If I was working internally at one of those companies, I would absolutely be looking at this sort of thing. But
I
have you
don't
talked to
think,
anybody about it?
you know what, to be honest, they haven't reached out to me about the data. They haven't complained, which is probably the first thing I'm happy about.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, I have not gone to them and said, look, here's what I found,
Right.
and here's where I'd like you to do better. I've said it on stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just said it out loud, but I've never like sent an email to them saying, hey, look, this is a problem I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'd like
yeah.
you to do better here. Right.
It's interesting having done this for several years now, like been in contact with Huion and XP Pen for 8 or 9 years at this point. It's fascinating to see how this industry has changed. Chad will appreciate this. This is a little behind the scenes knowledge. Like back in the day, like back in the day, the people who were reviewing art tablets on YouTube were people who were illustrators who maybe got a new tablet because their old Wacom broke and they didn't want to spend $2,000 on that latest thing. And so they bought like some $600 Huion and were like, actually, this is pretty good. And that's kind of what the review was. And that's how I started too, as I got a Surface tablet and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And people watched it and I was like, I'll do that again. But back then they treated all YouTubers as channels of marketing. And so like whenever I said, hey, I'm having this problem, oftentimes the response I would get is, no, you're not. I was like, okay. Or like Penwave was a really big problem back then. Like when I started reviewing Huion tablets, they were battery powered styluses. Some of them I think actually took batteries, like legit, like AAA batteries inside those things. And so like there was all sorts of waving weird stuff going on there. And they were like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And I'm like, no, it's the pen. And it's been interesting to see their evolution. I think as like people like Aaron Rutten and Tio and me, and there's a couple other people who are doing this more often. They've become more professionalized, and they kind of just let us run and do whatever. Like I almost on my XP Pen last time, I was finding a lot of. I think I talked to you about this. I was finding a lot of lag in the pen.
Lag,
and,
yeah.
And I was 90% sure it was me because Tio's review, like as soon as his went up, like I went over to it and I like was like looking at his video with like a fine tooth comb. I was like, he doesn't have lag. Why do I have lag? He doesn't have lag, you know? But that was one where like they were very professional about that. Like they responded, have you tried this? Let's try this. Like they have helped me kind of troubleshoot it. I still haven't figured it out, which really bugs me because I've used it. I've tried to figure it out on my main machine, which I thought maybe there's some driver conflicts, there's some other stuff going on. And then I tried it on a fresh installed laptop and I'm still getting it. So I'm like, I'm hoping at some point I'm going to test their new 16-inch tablet, and I'm hoping that it doesn't reoccur. I'm hoping that it's just like this one tablet is quirky,
Yeah.
and
It happens. There are defective units out there, right?
Yeah,
It does
yeah.
happen.
So I really hope that's the case, because if this is a Brad problem that persists, I'm screwed. I don't know how I'm going to review these things if all of a sudden I start seeing crazy lag on everything. I guess
But
a full
you,
reinstall of Windows might be in my future.
but something that, popped out to me as you were talking about this is, we actually two things. Number one, sometimes we can take a look at problems and drive ourselves crazy,
Yes.
right? Like, I guarantee you, I find diagonal wobble, which is true, but most people might not notice it until you're trying to find it,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And so that's one thing. Like, if you go looking for problems, you will find them.
Yep.
Okay. Number two is an experience I had recently, because you wonder, actually, let me say this more simply. Things have gotten really good. Tablets are, like in 5 years, everything will be as good as you can possibly imagine, right?
Yep.
And let me give you some evidence behind that. Recently, I took an old Intuos 3 tablet, right? Best tablet on the market,
Uh-huh.
right? I mean, people still swear by it,
They
right?
do.
I installed it with its driver, and I did my wobble test. And you know what I noticed?
Uh-oh.
Wow, this stroke wasn't perfect. It actually had noticeable wobble.
Yeah.
That was the state of the art professional tablet back then.
Yeah.
Most Huion tablets exhibit either very little wobble or no wobble.
Yeah. You
So
spend a
things
lot of
have gotten
time
better.
you spend a lot of time on Reddit. You have a comment section, and so you see the same thing I see. I see it less now than I did like 3 or 4 years ago. But for ages, whenever I'd review a drawing tablet, there was always like 3 or 4 people in the comments who were like, "My Intuos 3 is still going strong," and you'd hear that over and over again. Yeah. That was a tank. Okay, I want to dive into uh let's see. I wanted to talk about Android pens. I want to talk about
Oh,
shoot, I can't remember the name of it. The Universal Pen Tech crud that
USI.
90% USI, yeah, that 90% of the Android tablets out there have. Why do I hate it? No, I'm just kidding. So this goes back to what I was saying before, where oftentimes you just get something, you try it, and it feels right. So for me, the perfect example of that was I've drawn on a lot of Android tablets. I'm used to I know what Clip Studio feels like. I know what Krita feels like on Android. I know all this stuff. And then last summer, Wacom drops their Move Ink Tab 11 or whatever, which is their budget price Android tablet. It also ships with the Pro Pen 3. And as soon as I took up that pen and I opened Clip Studio and I just drew that first line, I was like, "Oh, this is good." Like there was
It's
just
very
something about it.
obvious. It's very
Yeah,
obvious.
it was like I didn't even have to test it. I had one line out of that thing, and I was like, "This could replace my iPad." Like I could, like right now, I could like this is it. I and that device is it. I think there's going to be some issues with that that I wish I covered in my review. We could jump on that in a minute. I but I don't know how it's going to age because of like the processor in it is kind of underpowered for what it is. But just that experience, there's something intangible about a really good pen that as soon as you just like get it on the screen, you just know like this I'm gonna swear on stream, like this is the shit, like like this is so good. That was one of those times. Another time that happened was when I got it was an e-ink tablet, the Remarkable 2. I got that. I had never used an e-ink tablet before. I think that had a Wacom stylus similar to like the S Pen type thing. And I just drew on that. And part of that was like the texture of that screen. Since it's e-ink, they could make it like super gritty. And so like I drew on that. And that was another one of those, like I went downstairs and made my wife write on it. I was like, "You've got to write on this thing. It's so good." So there, every so often I have those moments, and there's certain pens where I just use it, and I'm just like, this doesn't have the sauce. Like, and I find little things to talk about in my videos. Like one of the things I can point out is the wave. Like there is a fair amount of wave in those, but there's some other little things about it that just kind of the experience disconnects a little bit, and I haven't been able to figure out how to put it into words. So I guess my question is, have you tested a lot of USI styluses, and what are some of the things that you notice from like a technical standpoint that maybe I can't put into words, but you're kind of seeing with numbers?
Okay, so I've never used a USI stylus. In
Okay. Okay.
fact, whenever
Lucky.
someone asks me about one, I point them to your comments about a USI stylus from Huion, and I say, look what this guy wrote.
Right.
It's awful, right? So a couple, but I do have some background that may help here.
Okay.
Okay, so I mentioned I'm from the Microsoft world, so I've had every edition of Surface that has ever been created. Okay, and Surface, started with it had for a while a Wacom EMR stylus, and it switched to a Microsoft Pen Protocol or a variant of AES, right? I think you're very familiar with that.
Yep.
And I wanted to give some insight into what I think is driving some of the dissatisfaction or differences between that and what we're used to in the drawing tablet world. Okay, so we'll pick on Microsoft for a second. So
Yeah.
a lot of the times when people are talking about these kind of devices, they're very much focused on enterprise business scenarios involving document signing and
Yeah.
digital signatures. Right?
Yeah.
Like they're not artists. They don't think that way. They don't test for those things. They don't talk to those people. And so I think this is why it explains a couple of things why we're kind of generally dissatisfied with USI, right? Especially if you have like an artistic background. If you're just writing your name or jotting down a quick note,
It's fine.
you may not notice it at all. You may just be like, this is totally cool.
Yep.
I've talked to somebody, an analyst, who's talked to somebody high up in the USI organization. And I'm going to try to quote what they said. Like, hey, we've solved pens. Right?
Yeah.
And I started laughing. I'm like, what did you solve? Because in my world, we laugh at USI. Right? But I said, I can totally understand for their scenario, it's great. Right? When you have a specialized thing like the Remarkable that's designed for a very narrow scenario, I could totally imagine you'd be happy with its stylus, even if it's not EMR or even if it is. Right? But for those of us who are doing creative things where we're paying attention to the pressure and we are drawing in certain ways where the lag is obvious,
Yeah.
I still think EMR is it's the top tech for pens.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that going back to kind of that Windows stylus, the Windows Pen Protocol stuff, that's another one of those styluses where, and this goes back to you talk about like, will people notice it when they first draw with it? Like I had a Wacom Cintiq 12WX or something. I forget what it was. It was my first Wacom Cintiq tablet. Like I got it in like 2007, 2008, like way, way back. And so I was drawing with that, and the tablet itself was like 32 inches, but the screen itself was like 12. It was like huge. But it was a good experience. And then I got the Surface Pro. I think it was the Surface Pro 3, which is the first Surface where they had switched over from using Wacom over to using, I forget the name of the company now. It was the
Entrig.
technology. Yeah, Entrig, because they had purchased Entrig. I think Microsoft had purchased it, and then they rebranded as WPP. And I remember drawing on it, and it was just a revelation to me because I was so used to this giant tablet that now I had a device that I could take with me anywhere. Because this was a full year before the Apple Pencil and the iPad Pro and all that fun stuff. And so for me, I was just like, this is the most magical drawing device I have ever used in my entire life. And then, fast forward 3 years after drawing on Wacom stuff and drawing on iPads and kind of starting the channel and all that stuff, I was like, ew, I hate Microsoft pens. And that's another one of those little things where you can't quite quantify it. They've gotten better. I will give them that. Like the Slim Pen is actually dramatically better than the old pens. But there is something about it. Like when you start drawing, it's like the pen is waiting to see what you do. Like it's almost like thinking like, is this going to be a long press? Is this going to be a note? Is that like, what's the user going to do? And then, so there's just a little disconnect with some of those that I can't quite put my finger on, where I'm like, this doesn't feel right. But I also wonder if it's like, to someone who has never, because there are people who love their Surface Pros and love that
Yes,
Slim Pen and
yes.
swear by it. And it's just like, if you haven't used 50 other pens before this, like, do you notice these things? Am I over analyzing it? And when it comes to like a lot of these like Android styluses, the USI styluses, I feel the same way. Like, am I being too picky? Do I care too much about this? Am I the wrong person to be reviewing this? Like, I think about that all the time. Like,
I totally get it. I honestly, I feel like I've created a culture of paranoia on pressure and wobble. I'm
yeah,
like, and people being what they are will over fixate
hmm,
on detail. Like if you ever looking, people who are buying a car will fixate on all sorts of things,
hmm,
right? That probably don't matter driving to the grocery store. And so it's the other nature of doing like deep analysis where you can create weird effects in people's brains,
yeah.
right?
I'm always, whenever I do a review, I'm cognizant of how long I spend on a problem. Because when you're
Mm,
testing something and you run into a problem, it's very easy to detail out that problem so that people know what the problem was and what you did with it. But in like a 15-minute video, if 5 minutes of it is focusing on that problem, it may have been a minor problem. Like, oh, like, well, there was more wave than I expected in the pen, and this is how I tested it, and these are all the things I did. And that makes for a good video. But people will then come away from that thinking, oh, this is trash. No matter how many times I say it's pretty good, and if you just turn smoothing up to 10 or 20%, you could knock it out, but know that it's there. People are just like, it's almost like the more you talk about it, the bigger the problem becomes. And so a lot of times in my reviews, I have to think through like, is this a big problem? And if it is a big problem, then go ahead, spend 5 minutes on it. Is it a nitpick? If it's a nitpick, mention it, talk about it, but don't spend more than 30 seconds or a minute on it, because people will get the impression that it's like this giant iceberg of a problem. And we see that in the tech community all the time. I remember when Apple revealed their iPad Pros a few years ago that had the mini LED displays, and someone took it into a closet in a dark room and took a photo of it. And they were like, the screen, there's bloom on the screen. And everybody's like, the screen is trash. And it's like, the screen is great. Just don't turn up the brightness for full
yeah,
blast
yeah,
HDR when you're in a dark room, like, and
yeah.
you can't see it. And so diagnose, like, bloom is a thing with mini LED displays. I talked to Art about that last week, and we talked about like that problem. But at the same time, it's like, how big of a problem is it?
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you were saying before, where everything is so good now that even the crappy versions of these products, like Huions, like 13 and 16-inch standard tablets, are phenomenal. It
I
kind
think
of
you mentioned
blows.
they could have been pro tablets
They could have been
not that
pro
long ago,
tablets 2 years
right?
ago. They would have been. And I just can't get over the fact that you're paying $350
Yeah.
and getting this thing. Like, holy cow, what a value.
Can I put that in perspective for a second?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I was many years ago, I bought my first pen display. That was 2007. I bought the 2005 Wacom Cintiq 21 UX.
Okay, yeah.
And actually, I showed it on live stream. It's a huge tablet. In, Parallax is like an inch difference between I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Maybe a half inch.
uh, really not
That's
a
it.
good texture compared to normal tablets. Cost me, I looked at my Amazon order for it, cost me $2,500. And while Cintiq Pro prices have kept up there, they've actually not kept up with inflation, number one. Every Huion tablet I've used at that size has been better than that Cintiq 20. You understand? Like,
Yep, yep.
things are good these days.
Yep, yep.
Right?
And that's the nice thing, is it is hard. Like, as a reviewer, it used to be. I think people get this perspective that if you say nice things about a product and you don't really have anything bad to say about it, like, you're paid off or you're a fanboy or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But on another level, it's like, these aren't like, I think I reviewed the Huion 22 a few weeks ago, earlier this year. And I got through that review and I'm like, it's clearly not the best tablet out there, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like, there's just absolutely, like, it is completely and utterly fine. Like, you
Yeah.
get the best pen that Huion makes on a tablet that costs a fraction of the price at a good sized screen. like there's nothing to complain about here. Unlike Huion's Android tablets, like every so often you'll get a product and you're like, oh, this sucks. And I'm excited because I get to I get to re-up and be like, okay, guys, I'm not totally sucking up to Huion here. Like this is actually like they can make bad products. It just doesn't happen often. We're gonna totally change direction here because one of the things this whole thing started, our conversation started last week when I wanted to talk about Wacom and support, and this is also going to spread to Huion and XP Pen, especially when we're talking about their Android tablets, because I think this is an area where it's, as a reviewer, it's kind of hard to tell because you get a product, you use it for a week or two, and then you tell people about it. And you don't know what that product's going to be like a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road. And there was a lot of noise I was seeing on Reddit of people just being like, yo, my Wacom tablet stopped working. And I guess you probably know more about this than I do, but like, what was it? They like pushed a software update and that some of their older devices are no longer compatible, or they're not compatible in certain situations. Do you know how that works?
Everything you said is accurate, but it's kind of like a half picture.
Okay.
There is a perfect storm that happened. Okay, let's explain the perfect storm. First of all, primarily, technically, this also involves Windows users, but primarily it's Mac. Okay, here's what happened. Everyone on Mac OS was using Sequoia V15 Mac OS, right?
Okay.
Life was good. Everyone's on the 6.4.10-3 driver. Okay, life was good for a bunch of people, like the Cintiq 22 people. They were just like living life. PTH 851, they were all happy. Okay, next thing that happened is Tahoe V26 of macOS released. Installing Tahoe for most people on macOS just completely broke all Wacom tablets. Not everybody, but most people said they couldn't use their tablet no matter what it was that was Wacom. So they're stuck now. Basically, the Wacom is not bricked, but they can't use it on macOS.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Wacom released a new driver, which is version 6.4.11-1. That fixed the problem for a bunch of people. Actually, just fixed the problem. However, 6.4.11-1 dropped support for like 15 tablets.
Yeah.
So effectively, if you had a Cintiq 22 or a one of these other tablets, once you got into Tahoe, you were hosed, as they say, technically.
Yeah.
Now, there's different ways you can think about this. You can either think about this as Wacom was being evil in dropping support, right? Or you can say Apple really messed us all up, and thank God Wacom saved as many souls as they could.
Right.
Of their new driver. Okay? But in either case, I think there's a couple lessons people should be really aware of when we're dealing with this situation. Number one is don't just randomly install the latest Mac OS version or even Windows.
Yeah.
Especially Mac, though, because when I look at their subreddits, every Mac OS version seems to trigger some weird behavior in drivers.
Yep.
Windows, it's very rare that happens, but Mac OS, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wait for people like you or me to try it out, or your next door neighbor. Don't be in the bleeding edge, right?
Yep.
So that's the first advice, right? Second thing is, even though we live in a world where we always want to install the latest driver, same thing. Don't do it, right? You just wait for people like us to be the guinea pigs.
Right. If it works, keep it.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is, honestly, especially on Wacom, when they release a new driver, their release notes tell you which tablets it's not going to work on.
Okay.
So from Wacom's perspective, they're like, well, we told you, right? But obviously communication wasn't, who reads the release notes, right?
Right.
So you should, and what I'll do is, if I notice Wacom tablets being unsupported, I'll probably call that out on my channel or just maybe send you an email letting you know we should warn the community something's about to happen, right?
Yeah.
Two other things I think people should have in their mind. Number one is you have to accept reality that there is a fixed driver lifespan.
Yeah.
I looked, and it looks like Wacom driver support really lasts between basically 10 to 12 years.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean your tablet stops working. It just means you're going to have to stay with the older driver for as long as it works.
Yeah.
That could be decades, but there's always that sort of Damocles hanging over your head. Will the next macOS upgrade break this situation?
Break this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that takes us to well, actually, we'll go on to Android in a minute, because I think the sword of Damocles hanging over Android tablets is much larger than the sword of Damocles hanging over Wacom tablets. Like you said, 12 years. Like, I totally understand. Like, especially if you paid $2,000 or $2,500 for a 22-inch Cintiq, and it's fine, and all of a sudden it stops working. Like, yeah, that would freak me out too. Android's going to get worse. But there is some good news. I have not watched it. I saw it right before I got online this morning. Aaron Rutten actually just posted a video talking about like what to do if your Wacom tablet stops working because of old drivers and stuff. So I need to check that out. It's only a 3-minute video, so it's probably like quick to the point. There are people making open source Wacom drivers now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, yes. So a little bit of background. It's called Open Tablet Driver. You can go to opentabletdriver.net. I'll just say OTD. That's what everyone just says it. Mm-hmm. And it is an open source driver that's compatible with over 300 tablets.
Dang.
So a bunch of Huion, XP Pen, Gaomon. So it's not just Wacom. Okay. And I think one of the developers on OTD, whose name is Cube, K with 3 U's and a BE, he puts it best. He's like, you have this, you can restore life to a tablet that, for whatever reason, the drivers no longer work anymore from Wacom. It's your last chance, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I would say this. You have to understand that Open Tablet Driver is amazing, but its original purpose was to help people play in a high-performance way a game called Osu.
Oh, which, yeah.
I don't know how to explain this to people, but people click on circles really fast.
Yeah.
And they need a high-performance driver for that.
Huh.
Now, as a consequence of building that driver, they added enough features that actually you can basically use it for artistic purposes with a little bit of setup.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of setup on Windows, much easier setup on Mac OS. So if Wacom does drop your support for your driver, this is one more thing that will work for you. So just as proof of this, I installed OTD and used a tablet from 1995. Right? Works fine. However, Open Tablet Driver is missing features you'd expect. Right?
Okay.
Like they do have support for tablet buttons, but not dials yet. And not touch. Maybe they're going to add that. It's missing things like display toggle. Right? Remember, it's really optimized for playing a game. It's not necessarily, we're going to make it easy for artists.
Right.
But,
right.
If all hope is lost, it can be a lifeline for people.
Yep.
Right? And I've written documents on how to install it step by step because it's complicated on Windows.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an amazing project and is truly saving people some frustration. It's actually useful in other cases. Like if you're just swapping tablets a lot, it's compatible with all of them. Right, basically 300 different tablets. So it's a really nice feature of OTD.
That is nice. Yeah, you mentioned the game OSU, because in the early days, like whenever I'd review an inexpensive, like Intuos clone type tablet, like Huion has a bunch that are Decos or whatever, that's XP Pen. But whenever you'd review one, people would be like, "Oh, this is an Osu tablet. Why are you using it for drawing? Like, this isn't for you. This is." And it's like, yeah, it's for everybody. Come on, people. That's funny. So the other thing that's worth talking about here when we're talking about support, and this is something I completely missed in my Wacom reviews, my Wacom Move Ink reviews for the 11 and the 14, which are Wacom's Android tablets, is that so what happens on iOS and Android, but those updates, what we talk about like Mac OS updates being disruptive and breaking things, iOS and Android updates tend to break a lot of things. And so what you have is that if the app is not updated in an app store, and then, or what else, well, let me back up a little bit. What ends up happening is you have your version of Android, right? And so right now, what are they up to? 15, 16, something like 16. That. And so I think like Clip Studio can only support up to like they've decided that they can only support up to version 11. So if you have an Android tablet that's running, or maybe it's 12, I don't remember what the number is, but it's there's a wall there where it's like
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
supporting this anymore because it's too old. And
Yeah.
that too old is only like 5 years old. Like it's not
Yeah.
that old.
Yeah.
And so if you bought and what ended up happening is what kind of triggered this in my mind this fall was that people who purchased the original XP Pen Android tablet when it first came out, which was now 3 or 4 years ago at this point, when that came out, it was running Android 11 or 10 or an older version of Android. It wasn't the latest and greatest when it even came out. And then this summer, when Clip Studio updated to a new version, they said, okay, this is only going to work with Android 11 and above and any tablet under that. And so XP Pen was still selling variations of that tablet up until like February or March of last year. So if you had bought that tablet like and gotten it for Christmas, well, here you are. You can't use your main piece of drawing software 9 months later. That's like crazy. And so people were running into that problem. And like this is a two-part problem. You know, the first part is that you have Android, uh, you have the tablet makers not updating their tablets. And then the second part of the problem is you have Clip Studio then not supporting older tablets. So it's like there's two parties who should work
Yeah.
harder here. And so from a support standpoint, that scares me with Android tablets. Samsung, I think, pledges like 7 years of support, or
Yes.
maybe it's like
Yes.
5 years of support, like 5 years of new versions of Android and 7 years of security. So that means if you get a Galaxy Tab, at least you're getting like a full 5 years, and then you're probably getting several years after that because Clip Studio will continue supporting older
Yeah.
versions,
That's right.
older software will. But I don't think Wacom is. I have not talked to them about this, so
So
I could be wrong.
they received this question specifically,
Okay.
and on their subreddit,
Okay.
Wacom support did in fact answer that they are planning on providing an update for Android to whatever. Now, they said a couple of months ago, and we haven't heard anything back. That's part one. So we don't have a timeline.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, we do not know the extent of their support lifetime.
Yeah.
They didn't say we're going to support 7 years or 5 years or 2 years. They just said we're going to do something. So there's a lot of ambiguity. Now, I think so. Things should get good for at least the moving pads, right? We don't know how long that's going to last or when that's going to occur, but it's better than a kick in the head,
Yeah.
right? For the other tablets, there's radio silence.
Yes.
Now, to be fair, I don't know if anyone's asked them. Maybe I should send them an email. But I think this is an important thing that we should start, as people who talk about tablets, we should point out, either we can point out they have made no statement or they have promised. Now, to me, I'd have a hard time saying, I think you should get this tablet unless there was a formal statement about how they're going to do support for Android
Right.
versions.
A Reddit post ain't gonna cut it.
That's not going to cut it,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, it's going to be super frustrating because, as you probably know, so many people around November buy one of these cheaper tablets for the kids. And it's, these parents, and you're a parent yourself, so it can be a significant financial burden
Yep.
to get this for your beloved child, only for a few months later,
Yep.
the disappointment to sink in. I hate that.
Yeah.
And the manufacturer's got to do a better job here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely when the XP Pen started trickling in this fall and I started seeing it, I was like, oh, it was one of those things where it's like I had never, I don't, maybe I did mention it in my video, like Samsung offers support or whatever, but it had never occurred to me what the ramifications of that were, right? Like to me, I'm like, oh yeah, they won't support it forever. Okay, fine, But then when you realize, oh, but Clip Studio isn't either. Now, I actually lay a lot of blame at Clip Studio's feet because Clip Studio is now a subscription-based software, and more or less. My opinion is once you go subscription, I'm okay with the subscription if your software is good and your support is great. If your support is mediocre and your software is good, it's not good enough. Like that's a one-time purchase type dynamic. You're buying support. You are, by paying a subscription, you are saying, I want to support this software long-term because I am a professional and this is a thing that I'm going to need to use for years into the future. And I want you to survive as a company and I respect that. And hopefully you respect me back. And so like when that's not reciprocal, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I lay some blame at Clip Studio's feet as well. Like if it was a one-time purchase, I'd be like, it happens.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know.
At the very least, Clip Studio could, again, the first starting point is for them to make a formal statement around how many versions are they going to support. Because at the very least, I can plan ahead.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And then I can know, okay, this is version 13. So, well, that's the scary part is because I think that those Wacoms are like version 13, which means does that give it a 2-year lifespan, a 3-year lifespan? Like, did they have to cut it off at 11 for a very specific reason? Like, listen, it's just like we built this software and the engine runs this way and we just can't support 11 down or whatever. And we will in the future, as far as we can tell, you know, that's a different animal. I might go on a Reddit posting thread after this and see if I can wake anyone up.
But to be fair to Clip and other, you know, since I come from the software industry,
Yeah, it's a lot of
I
work.
would say this to be fair, right?
Yeah.
The average person has no idea how expensive it is to make software,
No, they do not. No.
right? And just as an example, this is 20 years ago. My manager at Microsoft told me, he said, you know, realistically, when you think about insurance and the air conditioner and the computer we give you, an average employee costs Microsoft $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
So 4 people is $1 million,
Yeah.
right? And that's a lot of money. And maintaining and bug fixing, I can totally understand why Clip or any company would say, "Hey, we gotta move forward."
Yeah.
On top of that, some of the issues you can face is there can be security issues where the older versions are just gonna get you hacked.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's a very unfriendly to consumer situation right now,
Yeah.
right?
And it's only going to get worse when when the bad guys get a hold of Anthropic's new AI. I won't go down that rabbit hole. The Magic Drawing Pad was a reformat of a TLC tablet that was fairly outdated to begin with, based on how they go back at IBX and TLC. Having a 14-inch is certainly interesting to think about. Yeah. Licensing install management is really complex. Kept me from subscribing for months until, Brad, you convinced me to use it. Oh, crap. I convinced you to use it. I am a big fan of Clip Studio. That is one company I've never had contact with, though. I've never talked to anybody over at Celis. So I don't have like a direct contact to like ping with information and stuff. So, so we've gone. We've gone past my one o'clock normal time. So I think we should probably wrap this up. And I want to say thank you, Seven Pens, so much. Let's see if your website is still here. Oh, okay, I'm gonna send them to your YouTube channel, and they can find your website from there. So everybody go follow Seven Pens, watch some of his live streams. He's got all of them like archived on his channel. They're all really good. He's doing a ton of like data analysis live on stream. It's really fun to watch. But yeah, that's all we have for today. And thank you all for joining in. And I think I'm going to end the stream. So thanks for joining us.
So much fun, Brad. Thank you.
It was.
Thanks,
We'll have to do this again next time I have a bunch of
Absolutely.
topics.